This video will genuinely change your life, but only if you let it. Lock in. I'm going to teach you how to be accountable. I want you to think about it very clearly, because a lot of people will blame anything they can. They'll blame their partner, their parents, their own stress. They'll blame life, anything and everything except themselves. After watching this video, you will gain two things. You will learn how to drop your ego, and you will learn to stand up for yourself. Accountability is not blaming yourself for everything. It is identifying the part that belongs to you. Enough small talk. Let's get into it. First things first, you have to own it. This is where almost everyone gets stuck. Something has happened, and you explain why you did that thing, why it happened. But you have to understand that your explanation does not remove responsibility. That's what you think it's doing. That if you can explain why you did something or why something happened the way it did, you can get away with it. It'll just magically make everything easy and just peaceful. But explanations do not remove responsibility. Let's use a good example. Let's say things aren't going well and you're having a discussion with your partner and you just yell at them. Just leave me alone. And now you realize you yelled and you say, oh my God, I only yelled because I was stressed out. Now we understand stress caused the reaction, but do you understand that stress does not excuse the reaction? Let me show you what accountability actually looks like. When you can realize you've messed up in a situation and then you say something like this: I was stressed, but I still chose to speak to you that way. I'm sorry, that part is mine and I shouldn't have done it. I want you to see the difference here. You're not pretending the stress didn't matter, because it did. You're obviously stressed out. You were just refusing to use it as a shield, to use it as an excuse for the behavior. Same thing with yourself. And this one is so common. How many times have you missed a deadline, right? And your one excuse is, oh my God, well, nobody told me. Or think about it like this. You're supposed to clean your house, right? And no one does it. And you say, well, nobody did it, so I didn't do it. That may be true, but the homework or deadline you missed was still yours. The house you're living in is still yours. Accountability in this scenario sounds something like, I missed the deadline. I should have tracked it. Or the house was dirty. I'm in there. I could have cleaned it. What I want you to discern from this is that an explanation tells us why it happened. It gives us understanding, but accountability decides who owns it. And that's what I want for you to learn, what is yours to own and what isn't. So yes, fine. Things happen. However, your goal is to explain the context, but own the choice. Second, you have to understand. This one is huge. This one is so big. A lot of times people love to blame themselves. There's a difference between owning doing something and taking responsibility for every single aspect of that thing. Accountability is not saying everything is my fault. And for you, the people who do that and want to victimize or self-blame, that's not accountability. Neither is it maturity. You're not being mature. That you're just being inaccurate. Your job is to own your part and not the whole problem. Let's say, for example, you and your partner, you have an argument, right? Both of you are misunderstanding and don't want to be on the same page, right? And you end the night not speaking to each other, and that's it. You go your separate ways. An accountable response to your partner would not be, we're right, everything's just my fault, I always mess up. That's not accountable. That is self-blame and victimizing. So you can either gloss over the situation and just ease things, or you just don't have a backbone to stand up for yourself or acknowledge what you did. Accountability in this situation would sound something more like telling your partner, the way you spoke to me yesterday, it was not okay. But me shutting down and walking away from you is not proper communication, and I shouldn't have done that. That's accountability. You didn't erase what they did to acknowledge what you did, because they can coexist. The other person can still mess up and you can still own the part of what you messed up. I think this is so big because a lot of the time when people are having arguments, we are so quick to point out what the other person has done, but never what we have done, right? It is so easy to tell another person, a bystander, hey, when we were arguing, this is what they did. And I'm so mad at them that I never understand why they did this. However, we leave out the parts where we did something. This interaction wasn't one-sided. It was two people having an argument, right? So when you want to talk to people about things or confront the person you had this argument with, acknowledge the reality of what they did, of the situation. And it is so important that you take part, you take ownership of what you did as well, because you had a role to play. You have to understand it and claim it. A really good example would be when you and your friend are talking or not talking and they tell you, you've been so distant from me lately. What's going on? And then you say something like, I've just been busy. Okay. And maybe you have been, maybe you are. But you need to understand that the impact in what you say matters. You need to understand that the impact of your intention or action matters. You can tell them something like, yeah, I have been busy and I haven't just been prioritizing our relationship or our friendship. And I see why that hurts you. And I'm sorry, because accountability is not just knowing what you did, what the role you played was. It's understanding the impact it has had on another person, another individual. The key point here is understanding that Not everything has to be your fault. But don't hide the part that was. Thirdly, you have to adjust. This is where it gets real. This is where accountability gets real. Because saying I take accountability means absolutely nothing if you do nothing, if nothing changes. Saying you did something wrong and taking accountability for it is just admission, okay? You were admitting to doing something. Cool. Anybody can do that. Take, for example, you absolutely suck at responding in texts and your partner has brought this up, or you keep running late when you guys have plans together, right? And they bring this up, obviously, and they tell you, hey, I'm upset. You keep doing this. And you tell them, I'm sorry, okay? I'll do better. Okay, you will do better, but how? What does that look like? An accountable adjustment looks something like, okay, if you know you're going to be late for something, 15 minutes before, you text them, you let them know, hey, I'm going to be running late. Or before you get into the next big task, you let them know beforehand so they're not left wondering why you haven't responded to them. Now, that is a system. It's not just a promise. I just made a video recently about how to do things and stop repeating mistakes. That is the goal. You have to be able to build the systems, put yourself in environments that will literally make it impossible for you to falter. Think about yourself, for example. The big goals you keep setting and you keep telling yourself, I never have time to do these things. However, every night you end up scrolling for 2 hours. Accountability in this situation looks something like saying, okay, I did have time. I just chose to spend that time on something else. And the adjustment part of this will now look like telling yourself and actually following through and saying, okay, from now on, I will spend at least an hour before going to bed working towards that goal or that thing I want to do that I've not been making time for. And you know what? It might be uncomfortable. It might sting, but good. That means you are taking accountability, because accountability requires you telling yourself the truth without having to insult yourself or blame yourself or make excuses. So the big thing here you need to understand is accountability without adjustment is just a confession. You were just admitting to something with no real change. And now that's that, I want you to understand something holistically. Accountability is not saying everything is my fault. I'm a failure. I always mess up everything. That is shame. Accountability sounds something different, like this is what I did. Here is how I messed up. And this is what I'm going to do next to change this behavior. Understand that one will destroy you. When you victimize and blame yourself, the other will develop you. When you take ownership and you actually want to do something about it. So here's the simple framework. Firstly, you have to own what you did. When a situation comes up and the problem arises, specifically claim what you did. You had a role to play and it would be crazy to not take ownership of that. Secondly, you have to understand how it affected the person or the situation. For everything you do, there is an impact. You are creating an impact on the other person or the situation you find yourself in. Understand that and then move forward. Thirdly, you have to adjust. Accountability is owning it, understanding it, and actually doing something about it, whether it be words or actual actionable things. Accountability is the ability to tell yourself the truth without running from it, without avoiding it, or blaming someone else for it. Your life will forever change the moment you stop asking yourself, whose fault is this? And start asking yourself, what part of this is mine? If this is something you struggle with, it starts with dropping the ego and building yourself up. As always, I'm Cam. I'll see you in the next one. Because accountability